Welcome back to Why Not Me? I'm Mike Jackson, a producer and partner at Get Lifted Film Co. My guest today is my incredibly dear friend. I've known her forever. Her name is Jurnee Smollett. You may know her from Birds of Prey, Eve's Bayou, Underground, and many, many other credits. But I know her as Jurnee, my friend, Lil Sis, and someone who I love to have conversations with because she always keeps it real. And today we're going to definitely keep it real. We're going to not only talk about her career, we're going to talk about her incredible family and the support system that they are, and her journey forward in this pursuit of acting and producing and all the other things that she's trying to accomplish. So I really genuinely hope that you enjoy the conversation because Jurnee, again, is someone who I love and adore and someone I've known for many, many years, and I can't wait to share our conversation with you. So let's jump in. You were born in
New York.
October, right?
Yes.
In New York City, the fourth out of six Smollets, right? Just tell me about New York. Tell me about Jurnee Smollett's born. She's on Earth, and Janet is your mom. Like, tell me about like life with mom and dad, and like the environment in which you were born into.
Yeah. So my parents met in Oakland in the 70s. My mom's from New Orleans. My dad from New York, and they had a dream of having 10 kids. They made it to 6. Yes, I'm the fourth of those 6 kids. And when I was born, we lived in Elmhurst, Queens. And my dad was a blue-collar working man trying to survive. He didn't want my mom working. And they weren't financially that well off,
So what were some of his blue-collar jobs? I'm curious.
Taxi driver, milkman, worked for IBM, worked for Pac Bell, AT&T. Most of my life, he was a cable splicer.
Gotcha.
Climbing
doing the thing, yeah.
Climbing the poles, doing a lot of the work that not a lot of people want to do. And so, my mom she was a stay-at-home mom, built all of our furniture because they didn't have enough money to be able to like buy nice things, but she wanted us in nice beds and stuff. So her and my dad would build all of our beds out of this, wood they would get from the local hardware stores. And honestly, she was very creative and loved the arts, loved films, loved cinema, loved music. They really wanted to be like the Rudy Huxtable, the Cosby Kids,
Little foreshadowing, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, yeah. Seeing the image of brown kids on screen was something that they wanted to do. And people in New York would always stop my mom and be like, "Oh, your kids are so cute. You should put them in modeling." And so she had some friends who had kids who were doing it. And so she finally kind of agreed to allow my siblings to do that as well. And honestly, how I got involved was very kind of natural and organic. My siblings were doing a photo shoot, and the photographer, I was 10 months old, and the photographer was like, "Can we just put the baby in the shot too?" And so I just kind of fell in line, But yeah, when I was young, technically I've been in front of the camera since I was 10 months old,
That's crazy, man.
I don't know. It started off with me just modeling diapers with Bugs Bunny, my very first commercial was when I was 3 years old. It was a Joe Montana Pepsi commercial.
Oh, wow.
And then I did like a Cheerios commercial. And honestly, for me, a lot of my early memories was just of it being fun. It wasn't like it was a job, It was a time when I got to have my mom by herself with me. We traveled to Florida. I remember traveling to Orlando, Florida to do the Cheerios commercial, and I was so excited because it was just she and I.
Yeah. Do you remember when it became a job? Like, do you remember, like, especially with coming from a blue collar? I'm reading Carrie Washington's book right now.
Yeah.
And she was a New York child actor as well, a little older than you, but still a young actress. And she was talking about how fun it was and how excited she was. But then all of a sudden she realized the family could use the money type of thing. Did you, as a young actor, as you started booking, start to feel like, oh shit, like this money isn't just for me. Like I could help my family, or was it never really
Absolutely.
about that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting because my mom had high standards. She was very protective of us. And she would not allow us to do things for money. And sometimes we really needed it. And I do remember her being on the phone with agents, you know, cussing them out because
Yep.
she would straight up say, I don't care about the money. If I was someone who cared about money, I could go and do a lot of things to make money. You know, like honestly, she'd get really vulgar and be like, I would go and sell my pussy on the corner before I pimp my child out.
By the way, y'all who does not know Janet, she is literally one of a kind. She's just like everyday people, man.
Yeah. And it's so, you know, it's so interesting because there is such that stereotype of the stage mom. And I'm always very cautious because she really was not that. And yet I was very much so aware of the impact and the contributions that our work was having on the family, and that we were struggling. And there were times we were, you know, living in a hotel or not doing so great financially and didn't have a lot of food in the refrigerator, if there was a refrigerator, you know?
Right.
And yet she still found a way to never sell her integrity and would teach us all the time this idea that you have to be selective, you have to be picky, you can't sell your integrity because once you sell it, you can never get it back.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think around Eve's Bayou, that was probably around the time that I started taking this serious. It was my second film. And prior to that, I'd done mostly TV shows. My first film was Jack with Francis Ford Coppola directing and Robin Williams.
Robin Williams,
you know, it was still a lot of fun. Robin Williams, honestly, I still to this day say he taught me how to improv. It was the first time I did a drama. And honestly, the process of rehearsals and really inspecting the inner life of the character, a lot of the tools that I learned on Eve's Bayou, I still use today. And, you know, I think it was something about the way that Casey...
I was going to say Casey.
Yeah,
Lemons,
Casey Lemons, who directed and wrote Eve's Bayou. Just that process of rehearsals and, you know, really asking yourself these questions of the who, why, what. What's the motivation? You know, what does she want? How's she going to get it? I think that was for sure the first time that I thought, and I honestly remember the moment on set where I thought, oh, I could actually do this. You know?
Right. This is a gig that I can do.
Yeah.
And how are like Lynn Whitfield and Sam Jackson, like were they proper mentors to you at that point as a young lady, young kid?
Were and still are. You know, I have been very fortunate to grow up in a village of artists, you know, who really, you know, they were my teachers. And are my teachers. You know, I'm Sam and LaTanya Richardson Jackson still to this day, you know, are sources of inspiration, sources of mentorship, of advice for me. But yes, absolutely during that time, you know, it was like taking a master class.
Totally.
Being in the soil with someone like Sam, honestly, I didn't know at 10 years old who he was and that he was who he was, you know? And he didn't come on set like that anyways. He was just cool, you know?
Yeah.
But for sure, the methods and really building a character and taking the craft serious, for sure. Sam's handprint, Casey Lemon's handprint, Debbie Morgan, Lynn Whitfield, Diane Carroll, so many greats were in that cast. And absolutely, their handprint is all over my instrument currently.
So before you go further in your career, I want to go back to Janet because I adore her so much. Talk a little bit about her activism and like her, how like strong-willed she is. I think understanding that part of her can help the audience understand more about why she was the way she was with your career, how she is in your personal lives. Like she is literally like a warrior. She is a take no bullshit, no prisoner type of chick.
Yeah, for sure. You got to think she is, you know, Black woman, grew up in the South, born in Galveston, Texas, and raised in New Orleans. And when she left New Orleans, she had the mission of really never returning because of the things she went through, and witnessed, and moved to Oakland and was mentored and befriended by the likes of Angela Davis and Kendra and Franklin and Fanya Davis. And that was really her womanhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so that level of Oakland activism is through and through my mom, and through me, honestly, growing up hearing stories about watching Angela be able to, switch different languages, and Kendra and Franklin. And honestly, I don't think I would be the woman I am today without that level of consciousness.
Yep.
And my mom had me read a biography about Harriet Tubman when I was 8 years old.
That's heavy.
Watching Roots and knowing our history and knowing that the school system was not going to educate us the way we deserve to be educated about our history. She supplemented that beautifully, just at the dinner table. It was so much a part of our life. She had me at 5 years old on the street corner protesting, It's like I remember creating signs and her taking me into the voting booth and allowing me to press the lever. I think about those memories now when I'm raising my son and how important it is to make these real important moments of being a citizen of the world, normalizing voting, making voting something that's exciting to do. When I turned 18, I was so excited to be able to go and register to vote.
Such a privilege.
I remember how important it was and how fun it was, to go in.
It's empowering. It's like I'm making a difference. I'm doing something.
To use your voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so honestly, a lot of my childhood was spent being in nonprofits, volunteering, being around activists, having a level of awareness and consciousness that I'm really, really grateful for, because again, my village was this beautiful tribe of artists and activists.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think my art inevitably was framed with that level of consciousness in mind. My resume is not 50 pages long because there's so many things that as a citizen of the world, I truly feel that I can't do or can't take or can't perpetuate, further stereotypes in my art. So yeah, I think for sure, my mother, you're absolutely right. Like, you can't really understand my path in life without understanding who my mother is.
And speaking of activism, I wasn't sure if I was bringing this up, but it made me think of Haidia,
Mm-hmm.
who's still a person who's really close to you now, but I'm assuming like that upbringing and all of those things formed something in you that made you want to befriend her and have her in your life as she was dealing with HIV and all of that.
Without a doubt. I remember my mom showing me an interview of Haidia when Haidia was really young. Haidia Broadbent, for those who don't know, was one of the first children born HIV positive. And as a young girl, I remember seeing her on different talk shows, talking about the fact that she had been told she wouldn't live past the age of 5. And seeing this little girl, brown girl, on screen crying about that and being so vulnerable and open about her experience, man, that added a level of humanity to me, because honestly, what separates me from her? And I remember being asked by Phil Wilson, the founder of the Black AIDS Institute, when I was 13 years old, to present Haidia Broadbent with an award. And I just remember meeting her and I was bawling. It was I felt so privileged to meet her. And ever since then, we became best friends, traveled the world together, speaking. She really did inspire me to become involved in the HIV/AIDS movement. And I started going into schools in Los Angeles when I was like a teenager. And it was a program that LAUSD had called Positively Speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of it was to go and destigmatize HIV/AIDS. And so by sharing your story of either being positive or positive adjacent, aka someone, who's negative, but someone who directly knows what it's like, having a family member or a close friend who is
like
positive.
Al-Anon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I would go into these schools to talk about Haidia and talk about what her experience is like. And I mean, honestly, at first these kids would be like, what is the chick from Row Bounce doing?
Right.
Conducting
What's Eve talking about?
Why is she giving us a tutorial on how to put on a condom? Like, can we just take a picture? I would initially get that sort of response. But to me, it was important to really try to destigmatize HIV/AIDS. There's still a lot of misinformation in our community, as well about it. And we don't talk about sex education enough. We don't talk about empowerment. We don't talk about, a lot of the issues that are contributing to STDs or the rapid spread of HIV/AIDS. And so I also, wanted to, again, destigmatize some of the things of like, you can't get it from sitting on a toilet, y'all. You can't get it from I know that sounds crazy now being in 2023, but these were conversations we were having, of like, I can hug Haidia. Haidia and I have slept in the same bed. She's cried on my shoulder. And it's interesting because she's a survivor, she's a survivor through and through, and honestly has inspired me in my walk so much to just be my best self, because what Haidia has endured and survived is truly, truly miraculous.
Yeah, it's a lot that she's had to endure for the majority of her life, and to see her kind of stand through it and rise above it and still succeed.
And still to this day, I have to say, still to this day.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I'm pivoting back to Eve, right? Now you just had this great run. I think did you win a Critics' Choice Award for that? I think maybe?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I did. It was like it was like the Young Performers Award or something like that. Breakthrough Award.
That shit counts?
Yeah, it was something. Yeah.
Do you know where it is?
Honestly, no. It was lost in the sauce of growing up. Honestly, awards and things like that for me, they probably should have been more important. But, honestly, the kind of family I grew up in, it was like, if you want something, okay, when you got back home, you better get in there and clean that kitchen.
Empty the trash.
I don't care what you want. That was my mom's, mentality. So honestly, I do not still have that award. I have it in memory.
There you
but
go.
The physical
it's
award,
filed in the
I don't have
depths of your mind. But coming out of Eve, now that's like title role. It's a big movie, really well received. I don't know particularly what your life was like going into that movie, but I have to assume coming out of it, things changed. I'm wondering, young girl in herself, but a young Black girl, were you aware in that moment or soon after that, that maybe opportunities might be different for you than, say, a young white actress in a similar situation coming out of a title role in a well-received, critically acclaimed film? Like, how soon after that moment did you realize your Blackness, although we embrace it and we love it and Black is beautiful, also as a handicap in a way? Not on our end, but,
handicap. Yeah. I wouldn't say a handicap because but I hear you. Again, growing up in this industry, you kind of grow up fast. I was aware of my heritage my entire life because of my mother. I was aware of certain discriminations or prejudices that, existed for my community since I can remember, right?
Sure.
Being the daughter of a Black woman and a Jewish man, like, you kind of have to know what the world is like. But I think in terms of my identity and how it relates to this industry, I don't know that I necessarily became more aware but there were conversations around me my entire career. I remember my mom having to deal with casting directors saying dumb things like, well, what is she? Is she like that type of stuff? Like, is she Black or like those kind of things I was aware of, when I was young. I think after Eve's Bayou, the idea of opportunities being different for me, I mean, these things were said. when you have this desire, oh, I have this list of filmmakers I want to work with. Well, why can't you give me the room for that? And I'm having these debates with representatives. And it's like, I was literally being told, well, the casting director said they're not willing to go ethnic on that role. I mean, these were the conversations. And it's just like, well, so it's literally not a thing of talent or skill set, craft.
Nothing you can improve on. Nothing that you could go and make better.
It's something that is outside of my control,
Correct,
right?
Yeah.
And then being Black and female, right?
Double whammy.
So then the roles just keep getting less and less opportunities.
Yep.
And for me, you got to know, like, Casey Lemons, the idea of a Black woman being a filmmaker was very normal to me. And everything else was actually odd. Because I had that experience.
That was your experience, yeah.
Yeah. In my childhood, working with Casey Lemons and seeing
the Cosbys.
Yeah, well, like all of these images of Black folks, Black females being behind the camera. I was like, well, why can't I continue to do that?
Yeah,
you know, and of course, yes, it was very sobering to realize as I grew older that, oh no, she was not the norm in this industry. And so, yeah, you know, I definitely went through a period, my late teens, where I really thought, this isn't for me.
Let's talk about Broadway. Is that a bucket list?
Absolutely. Like really high on the bucket list. I've never done Broadway. And the time, you know, the theater that I have done, I want to do more, you know, because it is for actors, you know, that's for sure the creme de la creme.
I think we need to get a lot more Black stories on Broadway, and I'm glad to see that's happening more and more.
Yeah,
but I think getting people like yourself and other like kind of top tier talent to kind of help push it to the forefront will be essential. So I'm glad that your head is in that space, to say the least.
Absolutely. It's a huge, huge priority.
So this podcast is called Why Not Me? And it's always about these moments of pivoting and shifting and leveling up potentially. You know, the world knows you as this incredible actor, but I also know you as a producer. And you've written a little bit as well, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. I think I've read some of your stuff. So talk to me about that why not me moment for you, as opposed to like, why not? You know, why can't I? Like, why me? Why would it be me? Talk to me about that why not me moment for you. And you're like, I can fucking produce. I can write. I can create opportunity for myself. What was that thought process like for you?
I've had a lot of those moments. You know, like I said, there was a real come to Jesus moment, I think, when I was 20 years old. I'll talk about that one first and then move to the more recent ones. Mm-hmm. But I think...
You're only 23 now. What are you talking
about? You know, I was doing the nonprofit heavily, you know, that entrenched in that world heavily, and being on the board of the Artists for New South Africa. I got a call from LaTanya Richardson Jackson, Sharon Gelman, who was the executive director of the organization, and Deborah Santana. They were all going to South Africa. There was a huge delegation happening, and they were going to build a well in Ingwavuma and pretty much see the work that we had been doing here, kind of witness it on the ground. And so I was broke, you know, there was no way I was going to be able to afford to be a part of this delegation. All this work that we were doing was very meaningful to me, but I couldn't go. And they called to tell me that there was no way they were leaving me behind, and they paid my entire way.
Wow.
Life-changing trip. Again, a moment when having a village like this, you know, their handprints all over me. And we went, we met the late, great Nelson Mandela, Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Wow.
We went to different townships in South Africa. And honestly, my life was changed. Just witnessing firsthand the beauty of that nation, their ability to triumph over tragedy, but but also to witness the impact that the work from all of these artists, the work that they were doing, the impact that was having on the ground changed me forever. Because it was kind of that moment of like, Jurnee, if you've been given this gift, God gave you this gift, the ultimate creator gave you this gift, how dare you not use it? Yeah. The reason we were able to travel to South Africa to do this really incredible work, essentially, it was because of the art.
100% because
the art got us there.
Yeah.
And so I felt very convicted, like you can't quit. You have no option. You got to use your gift. People need this work. Mm-hmm. Art is healing. It's essential. And so honestly, the day I got back from that trip, I got the script for Great Debaters.
Wow.
And it wasn't an offer. It was very much so like, this is coming down the pipeline. Denzel Washington's going to direct this film. And I stayed in the library, the Schomburg Library in New York, just researching Melvin B. Tolson, the debate team, our history, 1930s, Black America, Jim Crow America, Reconstruction era, and didn't know when I was getting the audition. The audition didn't actually happen, I think, for like another 5 months.
Well, and it wasn't, you were prepared.
Man, I was going to be so prepared. Listen, let me tell you. And when I finally got the audition, it wasn't an audition for me. They called and they were like, we just need a reader. We're trying to cast the male role, and we need a reader. And I was initially going in just to read with the other male actors.
Was that normal for you to come in and just be a reader, though? Like, as a working actor? That seemed kind of like an odd request for someone who had done what you had done at that point.
I wouldn't say it's an odd request. It's not uncommon. I had never been asked to do that. So again, I definitely feel like the higher power was working things on my behalf, because they weren't even casting the Samantha Book role yet. Man, I did not go in there as no reader.
Literally, get what was yours.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Denzel started improvising with me, and I crushed that audition. I crushed that audition so much that D called my manager the next day and said, your client is incredibly gifted. And casted me, didn't even cast the male.
You the only one got a job out of that audition. Tell us about Denzel. Like, what was that his first that was his directorial debut?
Second. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was he like? I mean, we know the world knows him as an actor, but what was he like as a director? How was he with you on set? How was he with everyone? Just what was that experience like with seeing this megastar directing you?
One of the most important films I've ever done for my craft. Masterclass. Mm-hmm. He taught me the idea of creating and writing a very extensive biography for your character, knowing every single thing about your character, what kind of sheets she sleeps on, what kind of food she eats for breakfast, knowing everything about the person that you're building, so that by the time you get on camera, that's a whole fully formed person. Mm-hmm. And the choices you make in the moment are made and fully informed by this research that you've done.
It becomes instinct.
You don't have to think.
You don't have to think, yeah.
You are thinking the thoughts of the character. Mm-hmm. And that's really the goal, is to get to that meditative state where you can just be. You can just behave. And man, when I tell you, incredible experience, incredible. He's an incredible director. There would be moments. I remember this moment. It's a scene where my character, Samantha, is debating for the first time, really, in a real debate. We're in this tent. And I had I had in my head how I was going to do this scene, right?
This whole scene, yeah.
And I had over-rehearsed. I had over-rehearsed so much that by the time I got there on set, I was too rigid.
Were you too in your head, too technical with it?
I was stuck. I guess that's the only way I can really describe it. And he came to me and he said, you rehearsed this a lot, didn't you? And I was like, I did, you know? I was nervous. I was like, I wanted it to be great.
Yeah.
Man, dead on arrival. You can't approach things like that, which I now understand.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay. Essentially, he was like, okay, we're going to shoot everyone out. We're going to shoot everyone. And by the time we get to you, we've got time. But the problem was, the more I did it, the more stuck I got. The more stuck I got in a performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time it came to me, I was like, honestly, freaking out of like, I don't know what he wants. I don't know what can I do differently, And he came to me and he said, all right, Miss Book with an E, if you're going to ask a question, you better get the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to describe why I needed to be told that in that moment. But it completely opened up my world and completely made me understand that, oh, wait, this is personal for Samantha. What I'm debating, the topic right now, is whether or not Negroes should be able to attend a public university and whether or not the university should be integrated. Well, Samantha Book with an E wanted to go to law school. And I believe at that time, the university that she wanted to go to was segregated. The law school that she wanted to go to was segregated. So how would she be able to achieve her dreams? So I'm literally debating for my dreams. I'm fighting for my life. The stakes are so much higher. The stakes
personal.
are so much higher than what I originally realized. And him just saying that to me about you better get an answer helped me drop in to a deeper understanding of what this scene was about. And the take you see on screen was right after he whispered that into my ear.
Wow.
And people always come up to me being like, the time is always now. But again, that's just his brilliance, is he was able to capture and get me where I needed to go just by whispering something very, very small. And I remember after that, I thanked him and he said, don't thank me. It's in you all. It's been in you all along. You just have to trust your instincts. And he told me the story of Glory, of the whipping scene. And he said that when he went out to do that scene, he had no idea how he was going to do it. He did not have a performance locked in. And really, it was about just surrendering to the ancestors and surrendering to everything, every truth of who he was as a man and what that was going to do to him and how it was going to impact him, and just allowing that, just trusting it, just trusting those instincts and getting out of your own way. Man, when I tell you, it's, half of the battle for actors is just becoming unblocked, getting out of your head and getting out of your head and dropping into your heart.
Easier said than done, though, right? I mean,
hell yeah.
Or else everybody would be doing it.
Hell yeah.
Right.
So masterclass. I forever am grateful for that experience.
God damn, Jurnee. Denzel, Cicely Tyson, Lynn Whitfield, Sam Jackson. I mean, the list goes on and on and on as far as like these incredible humans that have come into your
Jamie
orbit.
Foxx.
Well, we're getting to him. Even like someone like De Niro. You worked with De Niro. I mean, you've just worked with some of who I met in London a few weeks ago. It was the greatest thing ever, like hanging out with Bob. It was like 2 nights in a row hanging out with Bob. I was like, he's my friend now. Legend. She had so many incredible people. But again, back to that why not me moment of leaning into like producing. And I mean, you produced a movie, I think, with J.J. Abrams.
Lou.
Recently.
Yeah. Lou for Netflix. Yeah, it was, I've been trying. I've had a lot of starts and stops with my producerial efforts. The first attempt was when I was 19, right after Great Debaters, actually. I'd optioned the rights to this book and got a bit burned with it, So I've had that producerial spirit of not really wanting to wait for scripts or for Hollywood to go, oh, we wrote something for you, But it hasn't been really until recently that I've just had the ability to, take advantage of a level of momentum in which I can kind of usher forward more stories. And it's been incredible. So yes, I love the new chapter I'm in. Partnering with new filmmakers, working with repeat collaborators like Misha Green.
I'm about to bring her up, so that's my segue.
Yeah.
I was going to, speaking of Misha, I was going to just say, often in this business, if you can find, soulmates, professional soulmates, people who get you that, you have that shorthand with, I'm always like lean into those relationships and keep building and build and build and build. And, you did this little show on WGN America called Underground.
Produced by this little production company.
This company, we know a couple of those cats. But obviously
for those who don't know, it was produced by you and John Legend.
We had some fun. But that show was incredible. We loved the experience, loved you and Alice and Alano and Aisha, everyone, Amira, everyone involved in the show.
What a great cast, yeah.
But that was the beginning of a beautiful collaborative relationship with you and Misha. So just talk to me about the idea of finding that person that you can build with repeatedly.
Yeah.
And furthermore, just the fruits of that relationship, like who she is to you as an artist and even just as a woman.
Yeah. You're right. That's my twin flame. I just had that experience with Miss Tyson and doing Trip to Bountiful. And so for me, walking into that pilot season, I was going through a lot personally. My dad had just passed away literally a few weeks prior to me meeting Misha. And I had an offer.
That was February 2015, right?
Yep.
Or January, February?
Yeah, my dad passed away in January. I met Misha, I think, at the end of January or beginning of February.
I know that because my mom was February 2015. Right after your dad, I remember.
Yeah, that's right.
A couple of those conversations.
I remember us talking about that. Yeah.
About our angels.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, Misha.
It was a very heavy transition I was going through. I was in a very heavy transition, and I had been offered to do this other TV show on a major network, a bit more popcorny. That this show was going to be huge, and it actually ended up being pretty successful.
Are we going to say the name of the show or not?
No, I'm not. I'm not. But my agent called me, Dar Rollins, who, man, one of the best.
ICM.
Yes, he was at ICM, now at CAA.
No, CAA.
At the time called me and was like, it was late at night. Okay, Jurnee, tomorrow you're going to go. You're going to audition for this and you're going to read this. It's the best pilot I've read all pilot season. And he tells me what it's about. And I was like, wait, it's a slave show? Man, come on, Dar, don't insult me. Like, I took that whole thing like, what you doing? And he said, no, just read it, Jurnee. Just read it. It's different. They're doing something different here. I was like, okay, because there had been a show a few months prior that I was like, there ain't no way we're doing this.
Exactly the show you're talking
about. And I read it and was just like, whoa, who wrote this? Mm-hmm. The writing was so nuanced and different. And it is true. What they were doing felt fresh and unique. And it was honestly more of like a prison uprising, a liberation. It was radical. It was it was more so about the revolution and the folks who fought back. And so I went and read for the casting director. He didn't even record it. He didn't even have like the tape. And I remember leaving being like, this was a waste of my time, man.
I ain't getting this.
What? They just, Then I got a call saying the creators, Misha Green and Joe, want you to come and meet with them on Monday. And it was really this thing of like, do I take this really commercial thing or do I do this thing on a small network called WGN?
Nobody heard of that.
Nobody heard of
Chicago Cubs fans. That's it.
Ain't nobody gonna see this show. And honestly, it's about a topic that do our people want to watch? Yep. And it was a real gamble. It was very risky. So many people in my life told me not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So many people in my personal life, friends, family, were like, why would you do that? I ain't watching that, you know? But just my instinct when I met Misha, I felt like I'm drawn to her.
Yeah.
And I'm drawn to the vision that she and Joe had for this show. And the way she described it to me, she was like, it's Prison Break. And I was like, okay.
You can wrap your head around that.
Yeah, honestly, the pilot was rough. She and I did not get along. Legit, not only did we not get along, legit probably butt heads every single time we were on set. There was like a thing on set when we were shooting the pilot, like, oh gosh, anytime Jurnee's in a scene, her and Misha are going to debate for 20 minutes what this scene is about.
I may have heard some rumblings.
And while I was doing the pilot, I was in a real, I felt real inner turmoil of like, did I make a mistake? Like, this woman and I, we just do not see eye to eye. And honestly, there was a scene where we had a real breakthrough. It's a scene in which Rosalie has to take the punishment for her brother. So it's a whipping scene.
Yeah, that scene is tough.
And when I tell you, we debated this scene, I can't tell you. I mean, it was debated to the point where I literally said to Anthony Hemingway the night before we shot it, I said, we are not talking about this scene tomorrow. I called him and I said, listen, I don't want to talk about it. We've over-rehearsed it. At this point, I got nothing. Every idea I had, I felt like Misha was shooting down. I wanted to do it this way. She was like, nope, do it the way it's written on the page. And I was like,
that doesn't sound like Misha.
Listen, she didn't say those words. That's what I was interpreting of like, man, I just can't win with this, And so I pretty much said to Anthony, I said, let's not rehearse this and overtalk this tomorrow. Let's just, honestly, one thing I ask, just have the cameras roll. And I don't want to hear the sound of the whip before the cameras roll. Just, I need something that we have not rehearsed. I need something to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I went back to what Denzel said about the glory scene. And I was like, I prayed to the ancestors. I did not know how I was going to do that scene. I didn't know physically what my body was going to do. I genuinely did not know how this scene was going to succeed. And I just honestly was we shot on an actual plantation. And I remember looking at this oak tree that had been on the grounds for hundreds of years. And I remember thinking, wow, that oak tree has seen a lot. Which strange fruit has dangled from that oak tree? And I prayed to the ancestors to just use me, to be a vessel of truth. And we did the scene. And Anthony kept the cameras rolling. And we did it take after take. And honestly, my body was trembling and vibrating with something that was higher than me.
That was a tough scene to watch, man.
Afterwards, Misha came over and hugged me. And she, Aldous, Anthony, and I stood there, and I was crying probably for what felt like 15 minutes. And they just held me. And it still makes me choke up thinking about it. It was a huge, huge breakthrough for me and her as well, of knowing, you know what? I can trust the material and she can trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And we can both trust each other and trust that we have the same agenda in mind and that we have, we just want to tell the truth.
I love that journey.
I think that level of respect, we were able to just kind of relax. And we learned each other's love language. We learned each other's artistic love language of like, yo, we both have high standards. And really at the end of the day, have the same goals in mind. And ever since then, man, it's been we've been thicker than thieves. Not that we don't have challenges. It's that iron sharpens iron type of dynamic, you know? But the level of respect and trust is so deep. That's why we're able to create such great work together.
And then you have Lovecraft Country after that. You guys are about to go shoot your first feature together.
Yeah, Sunflower. It's her directorial debut.
Her feature directorial debut.
In South Africa, of all places.
It's incredible. I'm so excited for you guys. We're almost out of time, but I wanted to do a little homage. I used to love this show called The Actor Studio with James Lipton.
Yeah, I loved it too.
So, couple questions. One, what do you want to say to God at the pearly gates? Like, what do you hope you hear when you arrive at the pearly gates as far as like your time?
I would love to hear, "Job well done, baby girl."
I love that. And what's your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Such a good fucking word.
Fuck.
Fuck this shit, motherfucker. So we're both parents.
Yeah.
So as a parent, what kind of words of wisdom would you give to other parents based off of your experiences thus far? And obviously we're raising toddlers still.
Yeah.
But just what is it for you other than pure love for your child, obviously? Like, what's that thing or that driver, that like those words that you would tell young parents that are starting their journey?
I would say be kind to yourself. For me, there's so many different hats I have to play. Working mom, and I find myself, being kind of harsh on myself about it. And the mom guilt is real. And yet I look at this 7-year-old bundle of joy who's thriving and so brilliant and smart and kind and caring. And when I see him offer to help people or want to hold the door open for an elderly person, I go, I'm doing it right.
Yep.
He's good. And so I think society, we are expected to perform at such a high level, and that's great, but I don't think we often enough go, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, and parenting is not a perfect art. You know what I mean? Like, it's so
a thankless job.
It's a thankless job, and you're constantly like trying to be there in so many ways that you can't be everything all the time.
No,
and you have to give yourself grace.
Well, and also, I'm finding that a lot of our parenting, we're trying to reparent ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're either doing that, I don't want to do that because this was done to me, or we're going, well, I want to give them that because this was done to me. Instead of going, who are we now and who are they? And what is the need that needs to be served for them and for us?
Specifically, right? Because everyone's journey is so specific, right? And parents, like, as a new parent, I have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 5-month-old. And it's like, I had to learn quickly that like my dreams aren't theirs. No. Even as young as they are, they don't even probably know what their dreams are, but I know they're not mine. They're probably not mine. So instead of laying the foundation for them to follow in these footsteps that I've laid forth for them, I've learned early, like, just let them live in their own skin and their own truth, and like just be there to like guide them and support their path.
Yes. And them seeing you trip and fall and succeed and fail, they learn so much just by watching us and what we do, not by what we say. And so, look, I'm a work in progress. My son's only 7.
Yeah.
So I think he's pretty special. And he, through raising him, I'm growing as a person myself.
There you go. Last question. What's your favorite love song?
Oh, I don't have a favorite of anything.
Fair enough. What is a love song that you adore?
Currently, I can tell you a love song that I was listening to on repeat that was sent to me by someone very, very special in my life. Luther Vandross, So Amazing.
Classic.
Yeah.
I won't ask you any more questions about that, but but a classic song. Jurnee, thank you for saying yes to me and being my first podcast guest on Why Not Me. I adore you. You're a friend. And it's evidence because you show up for me whenever I pick up the phone and ask you to. And thank you for your time. Thank you for being awesome, and thank you in general.
Mike, thank you for having me. You're very special to me.